Hello, everyone. I should start by presenting myself. My name is Mariana Costa, and I work as a marketing specialist at PackIOT. In the name of PackIOT, I would like to thank everyone for wanting to be part of this webinar as a guest speaker, host, or participant. It's with a lot of joy that we can bring 4 experts on digital transformation in packaging, and I am sure they will share great insights and so many things we all can learn from regarding technology and production innovation. We have Cristiano, the CEO of PackIOT. Cristiano founded PackIOT, which is a tech company aiming to help packaging manufacturers through a solution based in software as a service to collect data from production lines and transform it into insights upon which CEOs, plant managers, and especially operators can make better decisions. Then we have Thomas, the CEO of PackIOT. Thomas co-founded PackIOT, a tech startup, in 2017. PackIOT has developed an online marketplace connecting brands to manufacturers for full customized packaging production. In 2019, PackIOT has launched a SaSs, Hype, to help packaging converters digitize their sales processes and connect their teams and clients within one simple-to-use online solution. Sergey is the CEO of Open Packaging Network, a data-driven B2B online platform that generates circular economy solutions, shrink procurement, and boost sales of companies involved in packaging manufacturers. And then, of course, Adam Peak, our host of today, and also professional in the packaging industry and an enthusiast on helping companies sell their brand story through labeling, packaging, and sustainability. He also hosts the People of Packaging podcast. Cristiano is based in Portugal, Lisbon, Thomas in France, Sergey in Switzerland, and Adam in the USA. And we all want to thank you so much for being present. And now, Adam, this is with you. I hope you all enjoyed this first session of webinars. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Mariana. And it feels funny. I think we could say, do we say the France or the Switzerland or the Portugal? It's like the United States seems so definitive and very much on brand with us Americans over here. So appreciate it. It's exciting to be on kind of hosting this webinar with this, really a global audience. So it's cool. And we're going to be talking about technology for operational efficiency in packaging. And so sort of the flow so that everyone understands is this is not going to be a commercial for any one brand. It's going to be a conversation. But in order to understand sort of where everyone is coming from so that you can see the lens through which they're viewing problems, it's probably helpful for each of you to kind of do an introduction, a brief introduction. I think it's like an elevator pitch, but because of social distancing, we're not on elevators anymore. So, really it's maybe we are, I don't know. But it's really this idea, and I like to frame it like this. So if I were to say, who I am and what problem exists and how do I, or how does my company, in the case, there's 3 CEOs and a sales rep walk into a bar. It seems like a bad joke, but you guys are all CEOs of your own company. So in your case, how does your company solve the problem? So why don't we start with, and I'm not even you can say your own last name because I won't do it justice. So Sergey, why don't we start with you? So just a quick introduction of who you are and what problems do you see and how do you guys solve them?
Okay, great. So thanks for having me. My name is Sergey Chekir. I'm founder and CEO of Open Packaging Network, and we are Swiss-based company. And what we are doing, so we aim to digitalize packaging market, so create so-called new generation online packaging market. And in the core, we are digital platform, so we match buyers and sellers and provide them services, starting from sourcing, new supplier, new buyer. We provide them online experience in negotiation and close deals. We have integrated new generation digital payments. We're planning also to develop and provide services like trade finance and insurance. So everything in one place. And this all is with an amazing and very intuitive interface. So it's we are a part of so-called connected manufacturing with PackIOT, and it's about digitalize whole process of packaging, starting from sourcing, producing, and also management of pipelines in packaging industry.
Awesome. And I also realized that all three of you have significantly better hair than I do. So kudos.
That's not difficult. That's not difficult, Adam. So
it's not going well for me, everybody. Well, thanks, Sergey. Appreciate that. And we're going to be hearing a lot more about what you're doing at the Open Packaging Network and how you're using operational efficiency to solve these problems. So appreciate you being on. Let's go to Thomas. Why don't you share a little bit about who you are and what problems you're solving? Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you, Adam, and thank you, PackIOT, for organizing this webinar. So my name is Thomas Othax. I'm the CEO and co-founder of PackIOT. PackIOT began with a marketplace, so basically connecting brands to packaging converters based on their brief configuration. We have moved on a new software that we now provide to packaging converters, especially in the cardboard industry. Basically, we white labeled our marketplace technology to help packaging converters digitize their complex sales process. As you may know, usually most of the business in packaging, especially in the cardboard industry, is a customized, highly customized configurations. And these are very complex sales process that connect the client with the sales administrator, and also cost estimators, structural designers, and so on. So complex and long processes that need to be more collaborative, cloud-based, and so that's the technology that we now provide to the market, which is called HYPE, for Holistic Instant Pricing Engine. So that's the background, and basically, well, we are in this COVID period where most of the packaging converters have to put their sales teams remotely. And how do you connect your teams? How do you get instant information from your back office when you need it? Well, that's all those questions that we want to target right now. Well,
that's great. Yeah, I'm excited to dig in a little bit more on that. It's certainly, I mean, all three of you guys are solving large problems, as our industry has traditionally sort of lagged behind. I think we would all admit when it comes to the digital workflow and how do we use the tools that already exist today. So I'm excited to hear more about that. Thanks, Thomas. And then finally, Cristiano and PackIOT, who's hosting this. We appreciate it. So why don't you say a little bit more about yourself? And that's not as interesting as your company, sorry, but you seem, in the limited interaction we've had, you're just quite boring, and I'm just kidding. So why don't you maybe say a little bit about yourself and PackIOT?
Perfect. And I was just realizing you have another bald guy behind you, but that's a great one. I think that's a thing, the talent that bald guys have. I think
the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan. Everybody knows this. Bald is beautiful.
Yeah, bald is beautiful. Bald is the new black. Yes, orange is the new black. So first of all, many thanks to everyone who's joining us. So we have 36 people online, 36 live. So this webinar will also be available afterwards. But it's great to have you here. So we're trying, and with the great help of Adam, organizing and hosting this. So first of all, thanks a lot, Adam, for hosting this. You're a great voice in the packaging industry. Sergey, Thomas as well. So And I think this is something that we really, it's part of what we believe that we can do for the packaging industries to change the way the industry communicates. We're more focused in the manufacturing, of packaging in general. So what we do, well, I normally say that nowadays people can answer the stupid question of how many steps they've made in the day. It's not that stupid, but it's a question that it's most of times useless. They're proud to say, oh, today I've made 4,311 steps. But in factories, in packaging factories, where they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in equipment, in assets in general, they cannot answer the simple question, hey, how is your factory today? Or how is it running right now? So the big guys, the big players, of course, they've invested in these long time ago with complex and expensive systems to get information out of their factory. So to really know what is happening right now in their factory. But especially small and medium-sized businesses, they still struggle to answer the simple question. And small and medium, we're talking about companies with 2,000, 3,000 employees. So we're not talking about really small companies, even medium-sized companies. They still struggle to answer this question. So what we did is to develop a solution that helps companies to get a better understanding of how their factories are running, how efficient they are, where are their bottlenecks, and something that they can really install in 2 days. So the idea is change from that mindset of a huge project, a lot of consulting hours, to something that's plug and play. That's the main idea. But again, the idea is to help the packaging industry to communicate better, to help the industry in general to improve the communication, to how the information flows in the industry.
Yeah, that's great. And just real quickly, so my name is Adam. I get to host this. I do host a packaging podcast that is now in over 60 countries, which is kind of crazy. When myself and Ted, who is my co-host, when we set out to do this, we literally said, what if 100 people listen to our podcast? And that was, we were like, no, not 100. Like, there's not 100 people who cared about packaging in a podcast. And now we're at over like 13,000 listens. So that's been really cool. It's called the People of Packaging Podcast. Love if you check it out. And then I have a full-time job here in the United States. I work for a manufacturer, and we print labels, flexible packaging, shrink sleeves, and folding cartons. And so, there's also a very real connection that I think is great to be able to make with all three of you, because in one way, shape, or form, what you are doing is helping to make my company that I work at better. And so hopefully I'm able to ask questions, not just as a moderator, but also I'm not the CEO like you guys. I'm not quite that smart. I do business development and yeah, I do. Did you say lucky me?
Lucky you, yes.
Yeah, lucky me. All right. But I do business development and channel partnership management for Fortis Solutions Group. I live in Salt Lake City. I have 5 kids and 1 wife, and I love the Denver Nuggets and hip hop music and good whiskey. So
with 5 kids and the podcast plus your job, you have 3 full-time jobs, I would say. So at least
I won't even tell you. I'm also
one full-time job.
I'm also coaching basketball for my 13-year-old and getting my MBA. So life is full, pleasantly full. So
it doesn't get boring.
No, not at all. Well, I want to get into this conversation, and I just want to let everyone know, to the people who are watching, would you say there's 35, 36 folks who are watching?
40 now and
40
and counting. 40,
great.
Yes.
So please submit questions through the Q&A function. And as you think of them, and I will try to keep an eye on it. I'll pull it over here to the side. Looks like Fernando has found it from PackIOT. MJ and AP, what a team. I would love to meet Michael Jordan and give him a large hug. So yeah, that would be a great team. We need to get Michael involved as an investor in the packaging industry, I feel like. So MJ, if you're out there, if this makes it to you, you're welcome into the $1 trillion global industry that is packaging. So anyway, I wanted to get involved here because I think that, you know, when Mariana introduced me, I do get very passionate about the idea of sustainability, because I think that packaging sits at the tip of the spear when it comes to solving very large issues. And what we're going to talk about today is very much in line with that. And I think sometimes people think of sustainability as, you know, just materials or, you know, just end of life, but really operational efficiency is maybe the single easiest way for us to start to achieve sustainability, not just sustainability in materials for the earth, but also with our company's profits, with, you know, how do we quickly, if I had to put what you all three do into maybe some quickly and maybe I don't have this right, but it seems like, you know, Sergey, you guys create efficiency through connection, and Tomas through, is that right, Tomas? Or can I just say Thomas? Because that's how I'm going to read it.
You can say it how you want.
I can say
or Thomas is fine.
Tomas. All right. So, you know, with PackIOT, it's creating efficiency through very specific processes within, you know, costing and estimating, which is a time and labor intensive process. So you're compressing that. And then Cristiano, creating efficiency through the manufacturing. So you have connection, you have building, or you have connection, you have estimating, and then you also have manufacturing. And when we can drive efficiencies through that, we're creating a more sustainable process, which creates more sustainable products. So I'm excited, you know, to get into this a little bit. So I've got a list of questions here. There's no way we're going to get through all of them in the time allotted. But one question that I have is this. So I've been in the industry now for about 13 years. I've worked in sourcing. I've worked in operations, customer service. I was a delivery driver at one time. I've done sales, business development, and, you know, now channel partnership management. So I have seen and felt a lot of problems that you guys are dealing with, but I'm wondering what's the biggest hurdle to creating change? What's the thing, and we can maybe go backwards. So we'll start with Cristiano and then we'll end with Sergey. So when you're talking to a customer or a prospective customer about what it is that you offer, and they go, yep, this all sounds great, and then they drop, but we could just never do that because of what it is. It seems like change is really hard, especially in packaging, because the force isn't there as much as it is in, say, the tech industry, because it's a safe industry. You know, people just always need packaging. And so if you have inefficiencies, you just extend out the lead time and people will just deal with it. So what are the things that are stopping you from really driving the change that you feel is necessary within the industry? So Cristiano, we'll start with you.
Mm-hmm. Great question, Adam. Before answering that question, I would like to go back to your previous remark on sustainability and connection to efficiency. Mm-hmm. I'd like to make one analogy. When people think about sustainability and efficiency, it's like comparing an electric car with a diesel motor. It's both take you. Which kind of car would you like to have driving in your neighborhood? So when you have an inefficient factory, you have in the end a diesel motor. Which one would you like to have close to you? So running a factory efficiently is something that we should bring to the discussion, because everyone talks about efficiency in packaging, looking at the raw material and so on. So this is something that it would be nice.
For those of you listening, I have an electric car. They're a blast. They're so much fun. So you should definitely do that.
So an inefficient factory in the end is a diesel motor running all the time.
Right. So you're selling you have a product that's an electric. It can help the conversion over, but you've got to go talk to the person who they just love their diesel. So what is it?
Exactly. And I think it's the analogy continues because in the end, it's a change. What's necessary? It's a change of mindset, and I think it starts. So everybody's talking about Industry 4.0 and packaging 4.0, and people imagine that it's robots. So robots are taking over. Oh, AI, machine learning, a lot of buzzwords, and they think that. But we really believe that Industry 4.0 starts with humans. So it's just bringing humans to the center of the solution again. So and I think this is the main hurdle that we see is to understand that things are changing and to adopt this change, to adopt this mindset that we don't have to wait for that huge project to start moving. We can start in small steps with the agile mindset. So I really like to think that the change in the industry in general is a change of mindset from Gantt project management. So what are we going to do, the plan for the next 5 years, to understand that even a factory, yes, it's running, looking in long term, but we can make small steps, small interactions, small improvements in order to get better. We cannot wait for the big day, for the big decision. We can slice that big decision into smaller decisions with the agile mindset. So with agile and the lean startup. So startups, technology is using that mindset in many aspects. And I think the packaging industry is lagging a little bit behind yet due to these, and I think you've mentioned it, due to these maybe understand, oh, we've been here for the last, sometimes the can making industry, we've been around for the last 120 years. Sometimes some can makers, why should we change now? But right. I think it's important to understand that the Kodak used to think like that as well. So, and it got disrupted. So it got digital cameras, then the smartphone came, and so, and they were thinking, no, we've been selling films for cameras all the time. So why shouldn't it work? So I think it's the adoption of these mindset. I think this is the best or the biggest hurdle.
No, that makes sense. There's a great book. Actually, do I have it? Yeah, hang on. Oops. This book's called Loon Shots that I just read. How do you nurture crazy ideas? Do you know that book?
No.
And so in it, he actually talks about Polaroid, the company, and similarly, it's like these companies that just sort of think, well, I was either the first mover or I did something, and then they never adjust. They get overtaken. You hear the stories of like Blockbuster and these companies that Netflix just came in and rooted out. So yeah, I think it's great, and I love the idea of switching from like, well, we don't know what the world's going to look like in 2021. So assuming that we're going to be able to make good decisions, knowing what the world will look like in 2030. I think is crazy for us to, now we can dream about it. We can ask, in Loon Shots, he says, like, ask the question, what if, and what if this is what it looked like? What if, assume that you could get this information out of your equipment and then taking small, like failing small and taking small risks. So I want to come back to that in a second, but Thomas, I want to ask you the same question. So when you're talking to people about PackIOT and what you guys do, and you go to a converter of, is it folding cartons and corrugated? Are those the primary? It looks like maybe setup boxes, rigid setup boxes.
Now it's folding cardboard and corrugated cardboard manufacturers. Yes.
Okay, so you go to them and you say, "This is my solution. I can do, blah 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 blah, whatever it is your value proposition is," and they say, "This all sounds great, but we can't change." What are those barriers and those obstacles to change typically look like?
Well, first of all, I would say, if I come to them and I say, "Hey, this is my solution," it all begins very bad. We should always always start with, so hello, do you have any issue with repetitive tasks? Do you have any issues with complex, costly processes that you want to change? What are your challenges you face? And when you start about this, then we can talk about the concrete business. What's the everyday concern? Because a solution, I mean, like hype, the software we promote is just part of a more global strategy. So it should always begin with what's your stakes? What do you want to change? What do you want to improve? That's the first thing. The second is when it proved that there's a compatibility between what we offer and what the converter needs, then yes, we may face some change of mindset. But usually at that point, it's within the teams. It's no more about general management. So first of all, it's about general management, how much he wants to promote the change in the company and what for. Is it for the sake of being more profitable? Is it for the sake of protecting the company in the future? I mean, like with the COVID crisis, some manufacturers have lost a bunch of business because they were targeting brand owners that have faced major difficulties. Others have increased their sales incredibly, and others are average, right? We can see everything on the market. Well, they don't have the same things thinking about what's next because they don't come from the same background, right? So the hurdle will be very different. One of them will say, oh, I'm very comfortable with my business right now, but I want to anticipate the changes in the future because maybe next crisis will be for me a very bad thing. And another one would say, I change because I have to very quickly. And it's not exactly the same, I would say, the same way of thinking and how they will implement. Also, I would say that something very important that Cristiano said is sometimes we say, okay, digital transformation, well, it's costly and it takes a lot of time. Well, it doesn't have to. It has to have, you guys have to have a very strong will to change, that's true, but you can iterate fast. And that's the mindset indeed. The change of mindset Cristiano promotes, I would say, is you need to be more agile indeed, and to test and learn. You have to say, I want to change, I will try small stuff with small stuff, and in the end, I can have a better view of what is at stake in my company.
That's a great point. I love the will. You have to have a will and part of like an ethos to change, and sometimes changing that's hard. My dad told me when I first got into business. So shout out to Ed Peak, who will probably not watch this, but that's fine. He said, Adam, you have to fall more in love with your customers' problems than your company's solutions. And you nailed that. I think that, going in and saying like, hey, I have this great, this hype software and it's going to do blah, 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 blah. If there's no problem, then, or if they don't even know that there's a problem, then yeah, focusing in on that is great. So I appreciate that. And then Sergey, same question to you. You've been waiting patiently. By the way, you win the award for deepest voice on the panelists. So congratulations. But yeah, so what are some hangups that you see when you're talking to people about what you're doing with the Open Packaging Network?
Yeah, so I just can consider what guys told about. So yeah, we have huge internal barriers, and it's about how to change mindset, how fast is possible of the people involved in packaging industry. Yeah, we did a lot. We made a lot of experiments. in the past with it. We targeted different sizes of companies. So what we discovered. So one main challenge is when decision is on different levels. And situation currently is that. So we have currently, it's also our opportunity to move forward. I mean, especially with online software, online solutions. And we see more and more people opened their mindset to such solution, also because they working remotely and maybe started to learn and to use this software. But yeah, we definitely have a very traditional, very conservative industry, and we need time. We need time to educate people to use such solutions and how to increase productivity and cost efficiency in case of businesses too. But back to packaging, back to sustainability. So I think a huge contribution of such projects it is inventory reduction. So we can cut inventory in time. So it's a direct way to reduce waste in the packaging companies. It's our first contribution, what we can definitely do. But I think companies are currently not so much interested in sustainability. If this is trendy now. And what we do, we starting from help companies in marketing, and it's about lead sourcing, and it's about lead management in one place, etc. So we are in the very beginning, but I think definitely step by step we can educate and help people to integrate such solutions.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, cutting.
And I love.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I love the connection. And then a couple of, I think Thomas and Sergey also have mentioned COVID. And I'm terrible at telling jokes, but there's a good one that's goes to guys in a bar and says, "Hey, who was responsible for digital transformation in your company? Was it the CIO? Was it the CEO or the CTO?" No, it was COVID. So COVID was responsible, because only right now people are starting to use Zoom, and we could feel it really. And Zoom is the start. So of course, human interaction. We're learning that human interactions. We see that they're more valuable than we have ever realized that. But some issues we can solve with the video conference, and I think we could see it really clearly. We've been talking to customers, so we don't travel. It's not our way of talking to. Our sales approach is not like the traditional one, just traveling. And it was much harder to get people onto conference calls or video conferences before COVID. And right now it's easy. Everyone can join a Zoom conference and so on. So I think it's looking on the bright side. I think it's happening. It will happen. It's getting better every day. And I think the change is coming. So I think people are realizing that it cannot be that the software that people are using on their private lives is better than the ones that they're using in their work. It was the opposite. 10 years ago, it was the opposite, right?
Yeah, no, it's, I say this all the time, that B2C consumers are also B2B buyers. And so if you are a company, you have to learn that that's the case, especially with millennial, Gen Z, and then whatever the next generation is. I mean, I think, Thomas, to your point on the software that you're building out, it's it's so easy for me as a millennial buyer to go online just as a person and buy whatever I want. My wife and I were watching the new Mary Poppins with Lin-Manuel Miranda. And this was, I think it was in the summer. And I said out loud, I said, we should dress like Jack and Mary in the song The Cover Is Not the Book for Halloween. That should be our costume. And by the time the song was over, I knew when my costumes were going to ship to me. I had already paid for them all on my phone. And so that process used to not be that easy, you know, until the Amazons of the world came along and revolutionized and digitized the retail experience. And so bringing similar things, I'm going to bring that same, if I were a packaging buyer, I'm going to bring that same level of expectation into my job. And so now when it's, hey, how do I find somebody who can manufacture this, you know, this thing for me? Mm-hmm. It's a very frustrating process, and it's cool, you know, Sergey, you're solving that. Or how do I know how much this costs? How do I know how much this box costs? Or how do I know how efficient my machine's running? I think are very frustrating questions right now for somebody who's used to having really simple. I will buy something out of an Apple phone if I get to checkout and it does not have Apple Pay. If it's like get your credit card, I'm like, that's too much work. I'm not doing that. Like. It's crazy, but we've just become lazy. Sorry, Cristiano, you're gonna say something?
No, I think that's in the end, I really believe that the revolution that we're seeing is a UX or user experience and user interface revolution more than anything else. So it's not, and I can say that as an engineer, I think the engineers in the past are to blame, because everything in the packaging industry has been, or most systems, most tools that are used have been created by engineers. And we need more designers and less engineers. So because designers, they don't only solve the problem technically, they bring the person back into the problem. So I think this mindset, what you've described, is a user experience. So the user experience is, it's the most important part of the solution, in my opinion. So it's UX and UI problem that we're solving.
Go ahead, Thomas.
I would add, it's very important what you said. Packaging industry has been built by engineers, and we are at that tip point of it's changing. It's changing because print has changed. Print has changed thanks to web to print. Mm-hmm. So we have switched from an engineer to a designer and also a sales process. I would add the sales stake because making business is the first target of everyone, right? So I would say that we need to move the paradigm of production to a paradigm of serving the client. And right now, what matters most, and in every type of digitalization, is timing. We offer an instant pricing engine. Cristiano offers instant data on production. Sergey offers instant information about sourcing. We provide instant data. Instant data. If you buy or invest in machines to very big names, Heidelberg, Bobst, whoever they are, you are targeting, yes, increase of productivity, but also things that shorten production cycles. You want to go faster. It's no more compatible to say it's okay if I give an average production time of 28 days. That's done. It's over. Right now we are talking about laser cutting, no more supplying of tooling costs and so on. We cannot take that time. So every concern is linked to instant information, and when you get those data all together next to each other, you provide a more comprehensive workflow to your customers and your teams. That's when you get to Industry 4.0, actually.
To get the job done before the song ends.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sergey. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, So we have this young generation that moves very quickly and ready to work with big data. So we will have some generation conflict in the next years, because maybe one team works very productive because they adopted some digital solutions, and one team maybe works on traditional way, and this is this could be some challenges for companies. So I think companies now could be ready to introduce and maybe make some mix in sales and procurement teams focused on this new digital generation too. And yeah, I'm usually asking company my first question is, okay guys, where you are in digitalization? If you have your own digital channel, for example, maybe at least e-commerce, because we see corporates now invested millions in e-commerce platforms, but e-commerce platforms, it's a how is it isolated, so it's isolated way to make sales or procurement. So I just asking about it, and what I suggest, hire today the marketplace manager or digital officer to the company. Hire now, because it's a very important. You start leverage your sales or your procurement through digital channels. Okay, starting from Amazon, for example. I don't know your company where you're working now, Adam. Your company, which channels they use now? Digital channels.
You mean for sales and marketing?
Yeah, sales, marketing. I mean outside sales, not inside, or maybe, yeah.
So outside sales, that's a great question. So, I mean, we use Google, we use LinkedIn, we use more traditional digital marketing strategies. Personally, I use, my podcast, things like this, LinkedIn, and that's, but that's not, this is all, it's been around for a while.
Exactly. So, yeah. So you use a very traditional channels. So you're sourcing manually. I don't know. You use maybe LinkedIn Sales Navigator, etc. So yeah, your channels are very traditional. And what you offer doing these things in one place. So it's about accelerate things in times and stay connected. Make decisions based on data, not on routine processes, but based on data.
Yeah, I love, because we've got some time. Please keep the questions coming, the comments coming. It's been great. We're going to get to those in about 10 minutes. So just know that we're going to answer these, but maybe our last point of conversation, because the time is going quickly. Let's focus in on this idea of data. And I think that what you have all hit on is that data has to be at least two things anymore. It has to have integrity. So you have to have good data. Having bad data quickly is not useful at all. So you have to have data with integrity, and you have to have data with timing. So the faster you can ascertain the data and the quicker you can make decisions with it, assuming that it's good data, the better business decisions you can make. But one of the questions that we had prior to coming on here is this idea of data transparency. And really the democratization of data. So you think about Amazon or Netflix or whatever the new platform is, or any social platform. Amazon, you go there and it tells you not only what might you like, but then also gives the competitors information, pricing, all of it. And by the way, Amazon knows all of that data. They know your cost models. They know everything. And brands just say, well, here you go. You can have it all. Within the packaging industry, I found that transparency of data is not something that people are willing to share. They want to hold it really tight, not knowing and not realizing that the world has shifted to the exact opposite, which is the free giving of data has actually become one of the greatest commercialization strategies of a lot of companies. So how are you in your specific areas of influence, how are you combating or even digging into this idea of companies who say, I want my data and I don't want somebody else to have it, and I would never share it. So how is data transparency impacting maybe the inability for us to innovate? Let's start with Thomas.
Well, that's a big question. One of the main things I can find on the market, as we display and we provide an instant pricing engine. You can imagine it is automatic and it can be put on an online system. So basically, Adam, I was checking your website at Fortis Solutions, and you have a very nice web page with folding carton products and solutions. Well, tomorrow, instead of showing what the products you're proud of, you could also push an online configurator for packaging with all your products and operations, and then it would give instant pricings under conditions you maintain. For instance, well, one of the concerns you may have as a sales would be, how do I want to provide this instant pricing to my competition? How do I display my price differently from different customers? Because in packaging industry, which is a B2B business, what we usually face is one project is one price, one negotiation. So do I want to display my negotiation to other customers that could ask for rebates and so on? Well, usually what I say is offering transparency and automating this process will potentially make you change the way you act and you do business every day. And so those questions won't happen tomorrow, and you will gain so much by being transparent and fast in providing your answers that it overpasses all your dilemmas. And one last thing is, because it's B2B, we need to adapt our technologies to this process. Once again, what's the most important for the packaging industry manufacturers? Well, we just have to implement this as new solutions within our technologies. So for instance, I could give features you don't have in B2C, or sometimes we talk about smart pricing. So providing an instant pricing, which is different from one client to another for the same product, for instance. Well, we implement this very basically in the system so that you can have different pricing strategies and so on. So, well, you need to adapt the solution to what the market says, and at some point also sometimes say the market needs to change, because being transparent and fast is more important than keeping things secret. It doesn't work like this anymore.
Yeah, no, that's very well put. Cristiano or Sergey, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, so just a few words about transparency. Yeah, so we are in the situation where small companies want a transparent market, but while large companies don't want to play with the price or openly maybe discriminate against a small producer. So I think this situation will not be so long. Because we have, from another side, we have end customer, which is more and more interested what is end consumer, which is engine of the economy. So they are more and more interested to know if business is transparent and maybe conducted honestly and respected human rights, etc. So transparency will be most important in this market. Even corporates don't interested to be. And yeah, we hope market step by step will be more opened for small companies, because also our solution is for small companies, give them possibility to enter to the market, because to supply maybe some to start supply to brands, to big brands, small companies need years to reach them and to be supplier of, I don't know, Unilever or etc. So it's about cut this time and offer more possibilities to small companies entering to the market, because they produce very amazing products. For example, new materials, sustainable materials, biodegradable materials, recyclable materials, maybe very, very special materials in this case, and they have these challenges to entering to the market.
Yep, agreed. Cristiano, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, so talking about what we understand, so a little bit better, the problems that we deal on the daily basis, which is data, operational data. How well am I operating? So I still think that these kind of data, it will not become transparent that soon, in terms of this is my efficiency with my name tag on it. Because I think there's also a game between the brand owners and packaging manufacturers, where there's always a pressure for lower costs and lower. So every time, that means I know as a packaging manufacturer that if I give my operational details to my customers, the brand owners, and so on, I know that the next thing will be a price pressure, or a pressure on if I increase my efficiency in 10%. I'll have nothing left of it. So I know that one day later it will be. So we really believe that this data needs to be kept really, must be well kept, so to say. But I do think that packaging manufacturers are really interested in anonymous data, or how good can I be? So what's my reference? Well, I don't need to know from whom, I don't need to know, but I need to know if I'm doing okay or not compared to what's available. So I think this way of transparency, it will come. But full transparency to say, hey, my name is that one, and my OEE is so much, and I've improved 10%. I think that will take some time still. And one other aspect about data transparency that I would like to mention is the importance of transparency also inside the company, because even inside the company, the data is not transparent. So the operators, many times they don't know how well they are doing in their jobs, because data is not available to them, and it's not democratic to them. So they cannot answer, hey, how's your shift going? Are you improving or are you not improving? Yeah. And they want that. So when you give them that, they give back engagement with their jobs, with their motivation, and so on. So I think the data democratization is key to a lot of things in the company to make them more efficient, more engaged, and so on.
Right. Yeah, and imagine if you tied that up with some type of plant profit sharing, where every employee in the facility not only had access to the data. There's another great book that I don't have just conveniently behind me, which would have been nice, but it's called Measure What Matters, and it details a bunch of stories from the early stages of Intel, and that's really where the
OKRs were born.
And it was a phenomenal read for me. But if we're not measuring these things, then why would we hold people accountable to it? And then being able to then share that data with the people internally, and then reward them for doing better. Everybody is going to share in that. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I think we see people in the company as data givers. So they're just there to give data. Oh, give me that information, but we're not giving anything back to them. So, oh, hey, what are you giving me back? I'm not here just to input data. So just to give you data. And I think that's a shift that will happen soon.
I'll tell an anecdotal story about that. So there was a time where I was in sales full-time, and I was given this price increase letter, so I had to go and I had to go say, your labels are going to cost 5% more. And that's never a fun conversation. So I decided to push back, and I said, well, why? We just estimated this a year ago. And they said, well, it's not performing to the margins that we needed to perform at. And I'm like, well, why? We just started to dig in. We got all the way down to the press operator who was running it. And the press operator was running the labels at half the speed that the equipment could actually run the labels. And we asked him, we said, well, why are you doing this? And he said, well, this is just what I was trained to do. So for him, it was like, show up, do the shift, hit the button, mount the plates, do everything, and then go at half of the rate. So we didn't end up giving a price increase because we were able to say, no, why? We retrained, we showed him that he could in fact run the press at the speeds that it was built to run at. And we actually made more than if we'd given some nominal cost increase to appease the people who are counting the money. So yeah, I mean, the data was not available. Imagine if that data was available the next day and the plant manager could say, hey, I see you're running at whatever the number is, 200 feet per minute. It can actually go to 400 feet pretty easily. Let's go train this press operator instead of having them run for a year, for 1 year. So much money was lost. So I love that. Well, we're going to move on to the Q&A part here. So tons of great questions. Appreciate the comments. So the first question is, this is a great question by, oh gosh, my screen's so small. Oh man, is it Carl CIZ? Sorry, I can't see your name that well. But you've been awesome in the Q&A, so appreciate that. As ownership changes, and so now we're dealing with either private equity or family-owned companies. As ownership changes and the next generation takes over, will the will to change? So I think, Thomas, you had mentioned that somebody needs to have a will to change. Are younger generations going to be making that change, do we think?
Yeah, so big thing. I have gathered some data. There's right now, I think, more than 1 billion digital native that are workers. So they are in our companies. So they are in the brand owners, but they are also in the packaging industry. And those people were born with the internet. That changes things and perspective, right? So of course, there will be things that are native from their point of view. Also, we should not shorten things like, because they know how to use social media, they know how to use digital tools. That's not right. They need training. They need to be. They need to know, to understand the process. They need to know the company. They need to know the industry, and then they need to be trained on digital tools. And of course, they are naturally. It's easier for them to learn, but it doesn't say it will be automatic anyway. Okay, that's one thing. And in terms of changing the pushing for the digital transformation within the packaging industry, yes, we can see that a new generation of owners want to implement this. They are more convinced because they have less fear. We forgot maybe to mention that point when you said what's the hurdle and why don't they change? Maybe they fear just to not be capable of making it with the new tools. And what if there was another question or remark in the chat saying, yeah, maybe I just fear that I will have to shut down my production and switch to a new digital world, and then I won't make it and I will crash down. Yeah, that's a natural fear when you don't know what's behind the technology. So it's our responsibility with Sergey, Cristiano, you, Adam, to just explain what's behind. It's not that difficult, and it doesn't change the fundamentals of the company, right?
No.
Yeah.
To that, there's a I love sailing. I love boats, and I don't have one, but I love the sea. And there's I love to read adventures about people who just go on a journey around the world sailing and so on. And there's a huge amount of stories of people that are building their boats for 10 years, and they never leave because the boat is never ready to leave port. They're always building. Oh, now I need and it's a little bit of the fear. And the best advice I've heard from there is a Swiss guy who came cycling from China to South Africa. Then he got on a boat and sailed to Brazil. I love those stories. And his best advice was, hey, go small, go now. I think that's the best advice for digital transformation. You're on a journey. You don't know. It's difficult to imagine how it's going to be in South Africa, which kind of difficulties you're going to find. It's difficult to trace everything that you're going to find, if there is going to be wind or not. But just get whatever boat you have right now, and the smallest the boat, the smallest the risk that you're taking, and just go now. I think that's one thing.
Just maybe
go
the
ahead.
difference with the new generation, they are willing to take more risk maybe than the old one that is more protecting the assets. So that could also explain why maybe the new generation is more keen to.
Yeah. So a question just came up in the Q&A that I think is in line with that. So it's around risk. And it says it's basically around this idea of cybersecurity as a major concern when implementing solutions, especially for brand owners who've had experience. This is from MK, who have had cyber attacks in the past. So I'll give you a great example. There is a company today, right now, that I know of in the a big company that cannot produce packaging because of ransomware. So there was a cyber attack on there. Everything is connected. You know, it's an interconnected. They've got plants all over the United States, and they literally can't turn on their presses because all of their computers are shut down. And it could be like that for the entire week. And that is hugely disruptive, obviously. It's not Fortis, just I wasn't trying to be like, you know, that, but it's somebody that we compete with. And I know this because I'm getting phone calls now, like, hey, can you do this for me? Because we can't get our stuff out. So how do you guys address that concern? I think it's a great concern that, yeah, this all sounds great. Thomas, you did a great job answering the question about, you know, the risk of digitization and removing fear and really inserting certainty into the process. But cybersecurity is uncertain. It seems like the bad people are always in front of the good people. So how do you address that that risk of cybersecurity and cyber attacks?
Is that for me?
What's that? It could be for anybody. Yeah, it doesn't.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sergey.
So, yeah, I think for our case, it's our point is provide a very safe infrastructure backed by companies or partners with huge experience in it. From our side, I think companies can provide data what they willing to share, and just to have infrastructure also safe on their side, because we for sure doing things here in a very, very safe way, because we manage very, very large amounts of data.
Right.
But it's about working together and understand how we can how we can improve these things. But cybersecurity is a big challenge, not only for packaging companies, but also for whole world.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are in, and we use last generation infrastructure currently. So customers can be safe with
Got
our
it.
solutions.
I was having this discussion with a company in Switzerland. They're specialized in software consulting for software company and cybersecurity and so on. And his advice was, hey, my advice to, and it's counterintuitive, right? Because he said, hey, my advice to be protected against cyber attacks is go for the cloud. So if you can choose a solution, choose it in the cloud. And why is that? He said, hey, no CIO or the IT manager of any company in the world or any packaging company in the world can create a better security environment than Google or Amazon or Microsoft. So to find a way into a private network that it has been built by the best IT manager available, it will not be as safe as any security built by these big guys, because that's what they do. They are protecting much larger assets. It's like, if you have $1 million, where would you keep it? In the Swiss bank or under your mattress, right?
That's a great point. Yeah. So and I think you and Sergey were saying similar things, right? Like, you have to trust partners. You're not going to go build out your own cybersecurity. Why would you recreate that wheel when you have Amazon Web Services and Google and things like that? So that's I think it's super important. I think too that it'll be interesting to keep an eye on blockchain technology and how does that continue to play into cybersecurity within the packaging industry, because if, as silly as this sounds, we do deal with very sensitive data, not only the data that we want to keep internal to give us our competitive advantage as a manufacturer, but like I work in printed packaging, and so there are customers who are coming out with new products that send us the artwork to produce, sometimes 12 weeks before it's going to end up in a retailer. And so if that information leaks out to their competition, that's awful. That is horrible, because now I'm giving their competition insight into products that they're going to be coming out retail. They can shift, they can pivot. So their brands have to be able to trust us to have good security, at least in my world. There was a story of one guy who walked in, this is a true story, walked into the biggest competitor of this other company with samples that he had produced, folding carton samples that he had produced for an upcoming launch, and dropped it off at their competitor to say, look at how great we are, we're already in your industry. Those products had not yet launched. They were going to launch 4 weeks later. Number one, you've communicated that you're untrustworthy, that you don't know and they're hated rivals too. It was crazy to me that person would just go do that. So the point is, don't do that. Don't be that person. But number two, security is absolutely critical when you're dealing with data. So we've got about 7 more minutes here. We're not going to get to all the questions, sadly. It looks like there's a lot of chat going on, so I appreciate that. I'm actually right now going to share everyone's LinkedIn profile that's on the panel. So if you want to connect up with us and reach out with more questions specifically, please do so. And I'm sure everybody would be happy to connect with you and chat through LinkedIn. But this question again is from MK. So it's open-ended. 2 key challenges I have come across in the packaging industry are. So let's start with Cristiano. What are the 2 key challenges that you've come across? You might, and it's okay if you've already discussed it.
Yeah, I think the first one is really mindset is really okay. So is it a big project? Is it a, and to explain that it doesn't have to be. I think this is one aspect. And I think that many companies in our business, they have, so the factory always takes more pressure, always is ready to take more pressure. So, if we don't have a system for them right now, it's okay. They can handle another month or so. So it's difficult to get the priority for the factory. So sales is really powerful in the organization. So there's always this tension between sales and the manufacturing. So I think
sales is always right. By the way, their sales is always right.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Just
like
kidding.
Right now.
So,
yes. And I think this to turn this into a priority again, and to give priority to and more power to the factory is a challenge as well. To give for the manufacturing to raise their voice and say, hey, I'm still using systems that are 30 years old. I'm using paper and Excel. So I think to turn that game, to give priority again to the manufacturing.
Got it.
To use electric cars in the manufacturing instead of diesel motors.
I like it. I love I have we have solar panels on our house. So I just tell people I get to drive off the power of the sun, which is fantastic. So Sergey, how about yourself? 2 key challenges that you see are?
2. So I think I not just I just consider what Cristiano said, but I want to add 2 challenges. One of them is market is very fragmented, so it's very difficult to have this target in short term. And the second is unclear organization structure in some cases. So it's a challenge because also for such projects very innovative, it's difficult to find a way, or to find to find this so-called green street, not to achieve the decision makers. So I think that's 2 can be very useful to have adjusted.
I like it. All right, Thomas, final question to you on that.
Well, I would say the first one is the rare bird packaging project. I don't know if that makes sense in English. We have this mouton à 5 pattes, so basically 5 legs sheep project, so that's so many times I can find sales people saying, we cannot standardize our sales approach because we only deal with rare bird projects. And I'm like, you're so wrong, guys. It's the Web 2 print has killed the market, and you don't want the Web 2 pack to do the same. So maybe you should start changing your mindset. So that's the first thing. And the second would be the key about knowledge management. We have a new generation. We talked about clients, but also about internal operators, right? Who now, in a new generation, wants to do cost every day, costing, or just pressing buttons without having feedbacks and so on. Who wants to do that in the new generation? No one. So people just don't stay in place, and they are moving, they are changing jobs. But the packaging industry is basically an industry where there's a lot of internal knowledge that has been passed to one generation to another. A lot of printing businesses are family-owned businesses. And so what about this generation which is leaving for retirement, and who is staying here? And so knowledge management and digital transformation is a key thing also. You have to keep the knowledge, document it, make it digitalized, making collaborative, make it accessible with different rights and roles in the organization, but still, that's a main challenge I can see in the industry.
That's awesome. Well, we're doing great on our time. So thank you to all three of you for being clear and concise in your communication and sharing just so much in a condensed amount of time. And we covered a lot of grounds. And I hope for the folks who were able to attend live, and then also if you're watching this recorded, that you will, you'll take just one thing away from this. I don't think that anybody thinks that you're going to digest 100% of what was discussed, but, take one thing away, carry one idea back to your company. I think, Cristiano, you kind of hit it on the head. Like, you just have to start, do the one thing. The phrase that I've used is, you don't hurt yourself falling out of a basement window. So, climb out of the window and just try it. It's not going to hurt if you fail. So fail small and fail quick. And what might end up happening is you don't fail, and you realize that you've taken a step forward, and then go take another step, and eventually you're biking from China or whatever. That guy's crazy. I don't. There's a guy here in Utah who ran 50 Ironman triathlons in 50 consecutive days in every state. That's nuts. And he ran a 5K in the morning for charity. So you don't have to start there with that, because you'll cripple yourself, but go out and start walking. So I think it's great. Well, I'm so grateful to PackIOT for putting this on. And I think I'm more grateful to have spent time with the three of you and gotten to know way more about what you do. It's cool because I can see this ecosystem, this kind of loop happening between the companies all involved here, including Fortis, where there's you're taking machine information and applying that into estimating, and then maybe there's now an instant quote estimating tool on the open packaging network that's being driven by this. So there's some cool things that I think could come from this. We'll be like the packaging Avengers or something like that. As long as I get to be, I don't know, if I could be an Avenger, I'd go with
our time is more Thundercats, I would say, isn't it?
Transformers is probably. Transformers. Yeah, we're gonna form an what was it? An Autobot. Anyway, so, well, I wanted to give each of you some time just to kind of give some last words. And so we'll go in the order that we introduced everybody. So, just some thank you, and maybe how can people get in touch with you? And like I said, I put the link to everybody's LinkedIn profiles as a way to reach out. So Sergey, we'll start with you. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so thanks for this amazing time. We described just few things, but I think it's just begin. So I just invite companies from small to big to adopt these innovative solutions, because we are here to help. These solutions are very, very cheap and fast to integrate. So I'm really invite companies to use such softwares and increase productivity and accelerate processes what they have. We are ready to help. We are ready to provide great support. And I think with us you can achieve goals very fast. Long-term goals.
Great. Well, thanks, Sergey. It was great to see you again. We've connected up before, so it's cool what you guys are doing there. And please make sure that you go and connect up with Sergey and learn more about the Open Packaging Network. He's doing some incredible things. So Thomas, my new friend in Bordeaux, for some delicious wine.
Sure.
The floor is yours.
I'd like really to thank PackIOT for making this possible, and Cristiano. Well, you're the CEO. I love to thank CEOs because we are not thanked a lot, right? So let's do it ourselves. But I would also like to thank Sergey for sharing all of this, and Adam, you make an amazing job making this packaging industry much more funny and fancy. And that's also so important. I would just say, remember that when you will overpass the fear of changing and entering this digital world, you will find out a bright future for your industry. And really, you cannot imagine what is possible when you connect the data and the dashes. So I would really say start quick, start small, but start, please. And that's what I would finish with. I've prepared some slides with some data also, and some percentages and stuff. We will see if it's possible with the webinar recording. We can share this with Cristiano. Voilà. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. All right, Cristiano, go ahead.
Perfect. Thomas has stolen my final phrase, but it's start small, start now. I think that's you don't have to fear, just start right now. But above all, I think I'm really thankful for all people attending. So we have had a great audience. It's an industry that's not used to these means of communication. And I think in this sense, Adam is doing a great job, like changing the way we communicate. And I think every change starts with communicating better, how information flows, how we communicate to each other. So I'm really thankful. Really thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Sergey. It was great. It's just the start. That's where packaging 4.0 starts, and let's help the movement. Let's help the movement. So thanks again, and thanks Adam for hosting this. So it wouldn't have been possible without you.
Oh, thanks, guys. Well, I know that and I'm super grateful and super thankful to be able to share and participate. So I learned a ton, and I'm excited to see where this goes. I know that we're gonna there's another webinar, yes, Cristiano, on, is it December 18th, I believe?
Yeah, I think so. Let me confirm.
Okay.
I think it's December 18th.
That's what my notes say.
Correct.
Just so you know.
Yes, correct. Correct. That's December 18th. That's December 18th. Correct. And then we'll have another session.
Awesome.
Oh, well, December 16th, Fernando is saying. 16th.
It's now the 16th. Okay. Well, stay tuned for sometime between December 1st and December 30th, but likely right in the middle, December 16th, that there'll be another one of these. And I'm so grateful that when we talk about transparency, that that everyone is able to come on and from different companies and share, and like you've all said, this is only the beginning. We need to keep doing it. So
spread the word. Spread the word. Invite everyone in the industry. Let's raise our voices to a more fun environment, where people talk to each other, where people share what they're doing, what their challenges, and so on. We all have a better working environment for it. It will be more fun.
Agreed. Well, I think that's it. I'm out of questions. I'm all talked out. So
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks to all participants that have stayed with us until the end. Incredible. You're incredible. Thank you. Thank you very much. And please do connect with us on LinkedIn. So,
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Have a nice day, Adam.
You as well.
Bye.
Bye.